this is the first help video for Access Chapter 2, the Prepare Case Putts for Pause database. We're going to look at the steps involved in importing different data types in this movie. So the first thing that I need to do is go into Pearson's My IT Lab in our Chapter 2, and we're going to select that assignment. Once we're in there, we're going to download our materials, and on this particular one there's quite a few different files, so I'm going to use the zip. So I'm going to download all files, close that out, and it produces a zipped file. I'm going to open up the zipped file, and in this manner I cannot use these files. So downloading a zipped file is not enough. You must extract it. So I'm going to say extract all, and then this is where you want to pay attention to where your files are going. So I'm going to put mine in a folder here that's called Chapter 2 in my Access folder. So that's where I'm going to select. So I look at my path here. Where it is at the end is where the files are going to go. Select it and extract. So now my files, even though this looks the same, you can tell that this is not usable because it's a zipped file. We've got that pink extract on it, and this one is actually the files, right? So we don't have this ratio of compression. So I'm going to go ahead and close up that zip file. And from here, I'm going to open up the Word document, which is always that instruction/rubric that you use, and we'll see what we need to do first. So I'm going to enable that file, and I'm just going to size it over here so we can see it over here. And all right, like that. And so start access, download, and open the named file that ends with Prepare Putts, Chapter 2, Prepare Putts. So like I've said in my other videos and in class, when you look at mine, it just says students because I'm not actually a student in the class. Yours would have your name in that spot, right? And notice it's really the only Access file. The other ones are Excel files and this text file, which is just a flat ASCII file that has data in it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that Access file. I'm going to enable it. I'm going to come over here and just minimize that. So this is my database. I'm going to enable it. And you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 tables that hold data. We've got one query, one form, and one report. So I have that part done. And then I'm going to move on to step 2. So if we were to look in our book to try and find this step, we're going to begin looking on page 97, right? So 97 to 98. And this first process is copying and pasting from an Excel file into an existing table in Access. It is not something that is done a lot because it has to be exactly in order that you the Excel file and the table the columns have to be in the right order. But we're going to do this just to kind of see it. So I need to go and find my files, right? So I want to find this Access Chapter 2 Prepare Putts Golf. So one of the things I mentioned last week in class is what's challenging is these all begin with the same thing. So what you want to really look at after you recognize you're in the right chapter is to look at the endings of these files because that's where the difference is going to be. So we're going to find Putts Golf, and we're going to actually open that in Excel. Because what we want to do is we want to copy, so I'm going to enable. So if we were to look at this and look at the participants table, look, we've got participant ID, last name, first name, street address, city. So you see these fields are represented in this column in Excel. So what I'm going to do is, I don't really want to select this first row that has the names of the data, what the data is. I really just want to start where the records begin. And I'm just going to select it in Excel, right click, copy. I'm going to go ahead and just minimize that right now. So then what we want to do is we want to, in Access, we're going to open up participants in data sheet view, right, where you actually see the data. I'm going to click on this, but here's the mistake that students make. See how it's blinking in here? We don't want that. What we're saying if we were to paste there is we want to paste all of that right in this one cell. We need to come out here left. Do you see how the mouse changes? And we want to select that entire row by clicking there, right click, paste. And it will put that in. Yes, I want to paste it. So the key there, guys, is don't be in a cell here, if you will, a field, but rather use the selector box and select the whole row. So we are done with step 2. We are done with Excel, so I'm going to go ahead and close that out. So now we're up to 25 records. We want to close participants. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of participants and take a look at what the next thing is. So in this one, so this first example of importing was where we just copied and pasted. Well, we're very limited because you need to have it in the right order. It needs to be the right data type. You know, it's a lot less flexible. This next one, we're going to import records from the corporate contacts worksheet on the file prepare puts cont, C-O-N-T for contacts, and we're going to pull it into participants. So if we're looking for this in the book, we're going to look beginning on page 99 through 100. Okay, so import the records. So we're going to go to external data, where we always go to pull data in, send data out. We're pulling data in, so we do a new data source. We're pulling it from somewhere. And this is an Excel file, so we're going to kind of move through here and find where we can look for Excel. And there is Excel, so I'm going to click on that. The first thing we need to do is find the Excel file, so I'm going to browse and find my file. And then of the 3 that are there, I'm going to look for the one that has C-O-N-T on the end. And I found it. Open. And then the decision is, are we putting this into a new table? Well, no, because it's saying we're going to pull it in right here, this table participants, right? So we're going to append it or add it to table participants. So creating a new one because it's data that doesn't exist yet, or we're putting a copy and what table it's going into. We're going to go ahead and do OK. And here we, corporate contacts is a worksheet, so we're just going to double check corporate contacts. That is the right worksheet. So we're going to go ahead and say next. Notice how this is grayed out because Access understands that this first is the field names, so you don't even get a choice here. Next. Make sure we're in the right table. We are. Finish and close. So now if I open up my table participants, now we're up to 29 rows. Okay, so I'm going to close that back up, and we are done with step 3. Step 4 has us importing volunteers from the volunteer Excel file into participant. But notice here we're doing not a whole worksheet but a named range. So those are the keywords that you need to watch, right? This was a worksheet. So if we think about Excel, right, this is a worksheet. A named range would be an area that I give a name. So I'm not going to pull everything, right? So there's two things you can do. You can do the whole worksheet, or you can do a range. And this one, we're going to do a range. We start the same way though. External data, new source, from file, and it's still an Excel file. Browse. This time we're going to find the one that ends with VOL. Open. We're appending it because it says into the participants table. Okay. And now look, here before we just said show worksheets, but look at this button here, show named ranges. So it changes what you're seeing, right? Because if we look at the worksheet, we've got all this other stuff like headings and stuff. Well, we don't want to pull that in. So I suspect that this area right here is the named range. So let's do named range, and sure enough, do you see it clears out that stuff that's not under the volunteer's name. So we're going to say next. It recognizes again that there is a heading, and it doesn't even ask you. Next, we're importing to participants, finish, and close. So now if I look at participants, I have 32, right? So it's definitely growing with all this data that's been collected from various sources. And so I forgot to tell you what page here, but it's going to be from 100 through 102, and we're done with that. So I'm going to do one more import in this movie, and then we'll stop it and pick up with the next bunch. So this one, it's not an Excel file. Look, right here. It's a tab delimited text file. So a text file, let me go to my thing here. And look, so it's got this txt, and it says text file. If I click on it, it just shows me the data. Look, I'm not in anything. I'm just in Notepad. It's just raw text, really like ASCII. So we're going to do it a little different. We start the same way. External data, new data source, from file. But this time, it's not an Excel file. It's a text file. So we're going to click on that. We're going to browse and find. And look, it comes up into this, and it only shows me the MIME type, or the data type, file type, sorry, that is a text document, because that's what you said to look for. So, okay. We're appending again to participants. So that part really is the same once we pick the different type. Now, for a text file, you have to say, hey, is it delimited or is it fixed? So a delimited file uses a character to separate one field to another. Oftentimes that's a comma. In this particular case, it's a tab, versus a fixed width where every field, it's almost like if you looked at it, it would be in columns. So it's spaced out in the file. You know, let's say the last name is 15 characters. And so every row that has a record would take up 15 spaces for last name, whether it's used or not. And so you find the next field based on the position or the length of the fields that come before it. Most of the time, though, it's delimited files, guys. So we're going to select delimited. It recognized the tab, but do you see there's other choices? So really, comma and tab are the two. But look, it doesn't recognize now that this first row in the file is not a record, but rather it's the field name. So we have to make sure we select that. It moves it out of the records that are being imported. We're going to do next, table participants, finish, close, and we are done. Okay, so once again, I forgot to tell you where that's at. So we're gonna, this is on page 102, 103. So 102, 103. And we're done with that step. If we come over here and we look at our participants, we've grown to 36, right? So we're going to end this movie. I'll pick up with step 6 on the next movie. Thank you.